Welcome, my friends. This is a grief breath meditation that is here for you if you've gone through a big change in your life or a loss. And if you need some space just to be with yourself, just to feel what you need to feel. This is also a great practice to use when you need a break to rest, or if you need some support with winding down before you fall asleep. We're going to be elevating our feet in this practice. So if you happen to be somebody like me who has a lot of swelling in your feet, this can be supportive for your feet as well. And I think a lot of us make our way to a practice like this. And despite our different life stories and contexts, most of us, I think, relate to an experience of grief. Grief is an experience that we all will have in our lives if we haven't already. And it's because in our nature as human beings, it's our nature to change. It's life's nature to be impermanent. And when those inevitable changes and losses in life come, we experience loss. And this can cause grief. A lot of different life experiences can actually cause us grief. Moving can do that. Losing a job or changing a job can create grief. Sometimes changes in health. If we've acquired a health condition or maybe acquired a disability and there's some loss from that, that can cause grief. Disconnection in relationships sometimes, whether that's a change in the connecting point to the relationship itself, or if we've lost someone we love to death, that can be a cause of grief as well. Sometimes losing a sense of safety, if we've gone through a traumatic event, can be something that we grieve. There can be a whole host of other experiences that we might be bringing with us as well. Those are just a few. But whatever our experience is, whatever our story is, one thing that really comforts me is knowing that when we feel grief, it's a sign that we've loved fully. Grief is a side of our experience of love. And how do we recognize grief? I think sometimes, I know for myself, I carry some grief sometimes and I don't even realize it. So I wanted to take a couple minutes just to talk about how we notice grief inside of ourselves. What does it feel like? Grief is a process that involves a whole range of emotions. We might immediately think of sadness when we talk about grief, and sadness might be that wave of emotion that comes. It also might be a feeling of a really heavy burden that we're carrying, or maybe a feeling of emptiness and hollowness. Anger can be a side of grief as well. We can experience, a heat of anger, or maybe a feeling of blame, either directed inside toward us or outside to somebody else or something else. That's a normal part of grief. Sometimes losses can really, really disrupt our feeling of stability, and that can cause feelings of insecurity or anxiety as part of grief. There's also a sense of acceptance and peace that can come with grief as a part of the process as well. And that's what we'll be cultivating today in this meditation. We all experience grief totally differently. And even day by day, we're going to change. We're going to have different emotions show up, more prominently in different days. And This meditation that we're about to do, it's inspired by Ashley Neese in her book, How to Breathe. And we're combining slow, intentional breaths with a restorative pose in this practice. And this is really, really helpful to do, especially when our grief has become really, really heavy. And maybe we're feeling a little bit stuck, or it's hard to move emotionally or energetically, maybe even physically, hard to move. This is going to help us restore a safe space inside of ourselves to hold what we need to feel and also to move what we're feeling to come out of our system. So the two key things with this is the breath, number one, is an active movement itself. And it's going to help us to physically create more space in our body for our emotions to pass through and move so that they don't become stuck in our bodies. Or if they are stuck, to kind of help them start to move. And then when we rest deeply, this is number two, when we rest deeply in any kind of restorative position, we're communicating to our body it's okay to relax. We're physically having an experience of being held, being supported. And that can impact us emotionally and mentally and spiritually too. We can start to cultivate that inner experience as well as the physical experience of holding all of the ups and downs of our emotions in a space, in a container that is accepting, that feels safe. So that's what we'll be invited to practice together for a few minutes. You'll need just a couple props for this to give your body that comfort and support. I invite you to have a pillow with you. You'll use that either for your head or for your feet, depending on which option you pick for the variation for the pose that we're going to do. So have a pillow, have a blanket to cover yourself. We're going to be resting in a still position, and that's going to cause our bodies to cool over time. So have a blanket to cover yourself with, and have some fuzzy socks on as well to make sure your feet stay warm. And that really is all you need. I'm going to take a step back now to show you the different options that you can take to get into your restorative position. The traditional pose we're going to take is known as legs up the wall. So if you're familiar with that, you kind of know what we're getting into. Otherwise, I'll walk you through the different options. You can, if you want to do this in bed, or with your legs just slightly elevated, you can simply bring your pillow underneath your feet to prop them up, and then you're going to lie straight back down. That's your first option. Your second option is to use a chair or the side of a couch or even the side of the bed to prop your legs on. And if you do that, you're going to come next to the chair and lie down in front of it and gently lift your feet up to rest on the seat of the chair so that your calves and your feet are both supported by the seat of the chair. So that is your second option. And the full expression of this pose is legs up the wall. I'll show us how to get into that. And then we'll move into an intention in our breathing. So if you're coming to the wall, what I'll invite you to do is bend your knees and sit right next to the wall, as close and comfy as you can get to the side of the wall. Allow your shoulder to touch the wall, maybe even allow your hip to touch the wall. And then you can let yourself lie down on your side in kind of a fetal position. And then when you're ready, you can slowly rotate your legs so that they extend upward, straight up, resting against the surface of the wall. And once you get here, you can shimmy a little bit so that your bum reaches the surface of the wall along with your feet. And you can grab your pillow and rest it under your head if that's comfortable. Wherever you're at right now, you can grab your blanket and cover your arms and cover your torso. And just take a moment to get used to this space, especially if this is your first time in this position. Allow your body to check it out. Let your shoulders shimmy a little bit down into the ground underneath you. Maybe take a few arches back and forth with your feet. Maybe twist your ankles from side to side. Asking your hands where they want to rest. I encourage you to allow your elbows to sink into the floor and maybe see if your hands want to rest on your belly or maybe your heart. And then checking out your legs. Your legs are free to do whatever they want to do in this practice. They can stay still the whole time. Or please know that you can shimmy and adjust and take movements as much as you want to throughout the practice. You can cross one leg over the other or one ankle over the other. You can even drag your feet down and bend your knees to have a little compression between your feet and the wall. I like to kind of cradle my left foot with my right foot sometimes in this posture. So lots and lots of options for comfort. Take a moment to find what feels good in your body. Beautiful. Beautiful. When you feel settled, we'll open the practice for ourselves by setting an intention. We're coming into this practice really specifically with the intention to allow our body to feel whatever it needs to feel. And you might even ask your inner voice, if there is a part of you coming in that is really suffering right now, you might ask your inner voice, what do I want for this part of me who is suffering right now? Do I want myself to feel peace, maybe, or relief, or soothing, or something else? Anything that comes up for you is just right. And as we start to breathe here, just noticing what that feeling of allowing feels like in your body. What is it like right now to be allowed to be exactly as you are? I want to invite you to hold on to that feeling. As we start to breathe, let's take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And again out through the nose. Deep breath in through the nose. And out through the nose. And again in through the nose. And sliding back out through the nose. We're going to watch our breath and our emotions for the next few moments together. And as we do, I want to invite you to allow your muscles to sink a little bit down into the ground underneath you. Allow your shoulders to drop heavier. Allow your jaw to relax, your tongue to settle. Allow your hips to drop a little bit further down. And feel the support underneath you holding you up. And notice how this rest and this slow breathing might be affecting your physical experience right now. I'm noticing in my body the exhales are becoming just a little bit longer. It's a little bit easier to exhale. For me in this position, the diaphragm is really supported in this position. And if that's happening for you, you can allow the exhale to maybe lengthen just a little bit more. Creating some room, some space for our emotions to arise and to move out, to be seen, to be held. I'm going to let you take a few more breaths at your own pace. And if you notice your thoughts wandering to the past or to the future, that's okay. You can acknowledge them and let them go. And come back to watching your breath and your emotions. And as your emotions come up for you, you might draw a line with your mind's eye to just locate, where am I feeling this emotion in my body? Right now, I'm feeling some heaviness, some sadness in my headspace, in my forehead, in my face. And I can feel it kind of rippling down my chest and into the belly. To me, it feels like discomfort, like something I instinctively want to push away, but I'm going to instead return to my intention to allow and hold this emotion. I'm feeling something solid underneath this emotion, just like there's the solid ground underneath my body. I'm just noticing anything that's coming up for you, whatever's happening in your experience authentically, you can know it's right for you. My feet are starting to tingle a little bit, so I'm going to bring them down and bend my knees, let my knees come a little bit into the chest. And then noticing again your breath. How is it naturally wanting to move right now, along with the emotions that you're experiencing? Does it feel kind of hesitant anywhere, maybe? Where is it naturally wanting to stop in your body? allowing it to be what it needs to be right now. And notice what kind of impact that has on your breathing. How does your body respond to you allowing it to be exactly as it is? I want to invite you to spend one more moment with yourself exactly the way that you're doing it. And after that moment, we'll transition out of this practice. Take one final mindful breath. And before we transition, I want to invite you to just pause and notice how this intention affected you, how this posture affected you, how this breathing affected you. Notice your chest, the space in between your ribs. Notice your neck, your head space. Are there any areas that feel maybe a little bit freer, a little bit more space? And at the same time, maybe also some tension, some emotion, some heaviness. It is all good. It is all loved, whatever you're experiencing. It's so valuable to just take this pause and check in. It's how our nervous system remembers and learns, is this felt sense of what's going on. You can take your blanket off of you at this time if you'd like to, and gently, gently remove the pillow from underneath your head or your feet. If your legs have been up the wall or up a chair, I invite you to kind of slowly, if they're on a chair, just rock them back and forth for a few breaths. And if they're on the wall, you can go ahead and bring your feet back down like I'm doing, bend your knees and kind of shimmy them back and forth a little bit, just to wake up your legs if they've been still for a little bit. And you can go ahead and roll to one side and press yourself up to a seated position. Great job doing this practice. It is not an easy thing at all to simply be present with our emotions and our experiences, especially if they hurt. So wonderful, wonderful job. I hope that this gives you a felt sense of a space that you have that is safe, that can accept you, that can hold all of the ups and downs of your emotions in your life. And know that you can return to this practice anytime you need to if you want to cultivate that space, make it stronger. And if you journal or draw as part of your practice, feel free to write out, draw out whatever came up for you. Otherwise, I just wish you healing and peace, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for taking this time to care for yourself.